Hello and a warm welcome back to the Pitchside Podcast and a new episode. I'm your host, the HOD of the BSB. Like, share, comment on the YouTube version of this podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes of the podcast and all the content on the channel. Of course, we're making some brand new videos, Euro related hopefully, for that coverage later down the line. Follow us on social media and website BSB on Twitter, Pitchside on Instagram, and listen on Spotify, Google Podcast or any other platform, and help us of course reach our first K here on the channel. Join us for episode 162 and you're welcome. Things off from the Premier League, and of course it was all about the top four in England's top division. Obviously the focus was on Leicester, Liverpool and Chelsea. Those three in particular were fighting for the last places into the top four of the Premier League, and it ends up with Liverpool and Chelsea invading those spots in third and fourth respectively. Liverpool finishing the season third is quite miraculous considering where they were a couple of months ago, when they were for most of the season, to be fair, but obviously this was a great finish for them. They defeated Crystal Palace 2-0 in the last game of the season. We also expected that and predicted that in a kind of way, because we expected Crystal Palace to be in sort of a holiday mood after Roy Hodgson retirement game pretty much. They had some moments in the game, but certainly were not enough to beat Liverpool at their own stadium in front of their own fans. Of course, it was a big emotional, I would say, game for Liverpool in front of their own fans, getting into the top four, really happy moments all around for a team that was ravaged by injuries, ravaged with problems. Nobody seems to believe that they would get in the top four at a certain point of the season, but they definitely did. They put on a run, they managed a great end of the season, 5 victories in a row, and they managed to sneak into the top four just about, I would say, again, for a season which was ravaged by injuries for them and ravaged with a lot of problems. Chelsea also managed to just about eke a top four place despite their loss against Aston Villa. Aston Villa had a man down. Chelsea had a man down, of course, in Cesar Azpilicueta, who was sent off late on in the game, but I think the damage was done by then. This was a game that Chelsea dominated and should have done better, but obviously Aston Villa were the more dangerous side whenever they had the ball, despite the fact that Chelsea had a lot of possession, had a lot of shots, but as you would expect in a game with this result and with this scenario, Aston Villa took their chances while Chelsea couldn't. Even the goal coming in from Ben Chilwell, from all people, which is a problem that Thomas Tuchel should address, I would say, ahead of an important match in a Champions League final against Man City on Saturday. Liverpool and Chelsea, of course, managing to finish in the top four, while Leicester, who spent the longest of days in the top four of the Premier League with 242 days there, they didn't manage to get there, or they were about to get there. They were leading 2-1 up inside 52 minutes of their game against Tottenham, and then the last quarter of an hour happened. Tottenham scored 3 goals in the last quarter of an hour. Gareth Bale was the man of the show, to be fair, for Spurs on the day. He scored twice in the last 10 minutes or so. In the last even 3 minutes of the game, he scored in the extra, in only the extra time, in the stoppage time of the game, in 90 plus 6 minutes, of course, scoring the 4th goal of 4 to keep Leicester out of the top 4 and give Tottenham a European spot, quote unquote, in the next year UEFA Conference League or whatever its name. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know if they can take that. This game was in particular harsh, I think, for Harry Kane. You look at the guy scoring 23 goals, having the most of assists with 14 contributions, with 37 goals this season for his Tottenham side, but in the end they end up in the UEFA Conference League. I mean, if Harry Kane isn't leaving this season, I don't know why he would be, because from the looks of it, from the post-match sort of hugging, celebrations, or whatever you want to call it, this was, I think, a big hint that Harry Kane is leaving Spurs, because there ain't no way he's going to be participating in a competition like the UEFA Conference League next season. I don't think it's up for his value. I don't think it's good for him. It's not good for Tottenham for sure, but definitely not good for Harry Kane. Personally, he would want to go to the next level, scoring 165 goals with Tottenham already. He's a bona fide legend for them. He will definitely sorely be missed, but not in the kind of way that would make the fans hate him, because they would know that at a certain point of his career he will look for personal glory, and he didn't do that for the last 7 or 8 years with Tottenham. and he would look for his future, for his own personal endeavours, and rightfully I think so. He probably should leave Tottenham. It became pretty toxic for him, I would say, regarding his own personal career. If he leaves, I mean it's not guaranteed if he leaves they're going to win trophies, but who knows what might happen in the future. I mean, Mauricio Pochettino left Tottenham to win trophies, and what he done with PSG, he won the French Cup and lost the league and was eliminated in the Champions League by City. So it's not a really big guarantee that you're going to win big things when you leave Spurs anyway. I mean, it's a proven thing, unless in Kieran Trippier, of course, and winning the La Liga title with Atletico Madrid. Elsewhere, of course, in the league, Man City managed to smash Everton 5-0 in the farewell for Sergio Aguero, the last game for Sergio Aguero of the season, and there was none more emotional thing than Guardiola about this one. He looked all sorts of distraught about this sort of result, about this big game for Aguero. He made an interview with Sky Sports where he was not holding his tears necessarily. He was outpouring with emotions, I was saying, praise for the Argentine, and rightfully so, I would say. The man gave Man City his best years. He gave them his most goals. He scored 184 with them. He transpassed Wayne Rooney with scorer of the biggest number of goals with one club in the Premier League. He's the patron saint in Man City's sort of transitional period, and this new era of Sheikh Mansour from 2008 and onward. He's one of those great legends that City have cultivated throughout the last decade or so, the likes of David Silva, Vincent Kompany, Yaya Toure, Kevin De Bruyne potentially, if they win the Champions League. I think this is a big, transition in Man City, and if he wins the Champions League as a sort of a gift, as an exit gift, that would be great really for him, and great for his personal achievement. The guy achieved, I think, everything there is to be won with Man City in England. Of course, League Cups, 5 league titles, 6 League Cups and 3 FA Cups. So he's an incredible player, as in he's an incredible Premier League legend all around, not just Man City player. As for the game itself, 5-0, you expect it to go a certain way. It did go a certain way. Sergio Aguero got himself a couple of goals, a couple of classic, I would say, Sergio Aguero goals, particularly the fifth one, where he simply just, this was rolling back the years for Sergio Aguero to like the prime Aguero, the 2013-14 Aguero, the Aguero of the QPR game where he scored the goal in the last minute. That was the kind of Aguero we saw yesterday in the 30 minutes that he played in the game yesterday. He came on as a sub, obviously, for Riyad Mahrez, who of course has been rested for the Champions League final and definitely did the bidding for Man City. 5-0, deserved champions, and obviously a great farewell tour, I think, for Sergio Aguero. The players obviously were celebrating him. There was a mosaic picture for him in the facilities for the club. There was a mural in him for Manchester City. The city of Manchester, that is, not the club, which is definitely a good thing to see, to honour someone like Sergio Aguero. Elsewhere around in the Premier League, Newcastle defeated Fulham on the last day. Fulham, they couldn't even get a home win on the last day of the season. Joe Willock becoming the youngest goal scorer in the Premier League to do 7 games in a row. That is incredible. Arsenal defeated Brighton and Hove Albion 2-0. They will not make it into Europe, but I assume this is a better option for Arsenal than the UEFA Conference League. Come on. This is unbelievably crazy when you think about it. Like, you think of the Super League sides of the Premier League, where Liverpool barely make it to the top 4, Chelsea is almost out of the top 4 on the last day of the season, if it wasn't for Leicester losing against Tottenham. Then you have Arsenal not making it to Europe in the first place, and you have Spurs being in the lowest tier of the European football next season, which is going to be the UEFA Conference League, and who's going to be watching that? It's really quite funny in an absurd way, I would say. Sheffield United defeated Burnley. At least they ended their season in a bang in the Premier League. They're returning back to the Championship, obviously, next season with the promotion of the likes of Norwich, and there's still the playoffs, of course, for the rest of the Premier League promotion sides. And Manchester United managed to defeat Wolverhampton 2-1 in a game where, obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would not care about the Premier League game. He would care about the Europa League final coming on Wednesday, and surely he made, I think, some incredible changes. He unfortunately will not have Harry Maguire apparently for the final, with the injury being so severe I think for him, but definitely had the chance to play some important youngsters. The likes of Anthony Elanga was starting, Eric Bailly getting a start, Brandon Williams getting a start, Amad Diallo getting his Premier League start, his first Premier League not appearance but start. Then you have of course my fellow Tunisian Hannibal Majburi making an appearance late on. Of course he played 8 minutes, which I think makes him the best player in United all season. Obviously that's sarcastic, the guy still has a lot to learn, and hopefully I would see him in bigger and better situation with Man United. Why we don't see him in the Champions League next season? Who knows what could happen. He's a great talent. He was elected the best player in the United under-23 squad, and that is just, if that's any hint, that is a great hint of what future could be. He's of course he's a midfielder, he's a playmaker, and hopefully he would be one of the best in United in the future. Elsewhere, of course, West Ham managed to secure a Europa League spot by defeating Southampton 3-0. Absolutely deserved for West Ham. Maybe, I kind of want to be harsh on them to say that it's a little bit underwhelming considering that they could have been in the Champions League, but again, regarding where they were last season, avoiding relegation, David Moore's taken into the Europa League is quite the achievement, and it would be celebrated obviously in the West Ham halls. Definitely they will be happy about playing the Europa League. Now looking forward to that competition, and obviously trying to improve the squad will be the first priority. Jesse Lingard, is he staying, is he leaving? Potentially he would be returning to Man United next season, who knows. But obviously for West Ham, it's a big achievement for them this season. 6 on the table with quite the. When West Ham United are the ones in the Europa League and Tottenham are in the Conference League, you know that something is wrong with the system at Tottenham. So yeah. So eventually, this is the final table of the Premier League season. Man City, of course, are the champions of the Premier League, undisputedly, with 90 points at the top of the table. Then you have Manchester United following them in the second place, of course, with 78 points, or 74 points in the second place of the Premier League. Then you have, of course, Liverpool sneaking in third with 69 points. Then you have Chelsea with 67 points. Then you have Leicester at fifth with 66 points, which is very, very unfortunate. Then you have West Ham, of course, with 65 points. Tottenham, 65 points. Tottenham with 62 points. Then you have Arsenal 61, Leeds with 59, 59 for Everton, Aston Villa 55, Newcastle 45, as Wolverhampton as well. Crystal Palace 44, 43 for Southampton. It's crazy to think that they were top of the table at a certain point. I need to remind people of that. Brighton 41, Burnley 39, and of course the relegated 3, Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United. A quick look, of course, just a quick look at the Championship in order to see who will be the promoted side next season. I'm doing it live, by the way, so really bear with me. In the meanwhile, as I'm looking for the Championship, promoted sides are going to be making it into the Premier League next season. We all know that Norwich are going to be returning there, of course, in the Premier League next season, which is good for them. They haven't had the strongest of seasons. Last one when they were there, so it clearly is going to be a good return for them. So the promoted side from the Championship are Norwich and Watford, of course, returning to the Premier League, and there will be the playoffs, of course, still continuing. It's still going on with Swansea, defeating Barnsley in the first leg of the playoffs 2-1. Brentford defeating Bournemouth 3-2, of course, which means that the final of the playoffs is going to be Brentford versus Swansea City, and that's going to be played on Saturday in the Wembley Stadium, of course, on 3 p.m. So these are the end of the Premier League season, and of course, as we mentioned, Norwich City and Watford are going to be promoted automatically, and the playoffs between Barnsley and Swansea City is going to be played on Saturday to determine the third promoted side to the Premier League. We move on from the Premier League, of course, to the Serie A, which was all about the top four as well. In the last day of its fixtures, of course, and after Inter Milan defeated Udinese 5-1 to finish off their season in quite the brilliant way, realistically speaking. Atalanta lost against Milan at 2-0 to give them a top four spot. Atalanta, of course, who qualified already to the Champions League, they have no real problem with losing this game against AC Milan, but obviously that gifted a door for Juventus to get through to the Champions League spots, not necessarily by Atalanta losing to Milan. Juventus defeated Bologna 4-1. That game was really done and dusted. Since the first couple of minutes, of course, Chiesa scoring early for Juventus, opening scoring as early as 60 minutes into the game. Alvaro Morata scoring the second inside half an hour, then Adrien Rabiot scoring the third in the 45th minute, then Alvaro Morata scoring the fourth early on in the second half and gifting Tottenham an important win. Really, Orsolini made it 4-1 against Bologna, but who had their chances. It wasn't like Bologna didn't have opportunities. They had opportunities to score and to threaten Juventus, but they didn't take them. As for Atalanta, they were, a little bit off the races, just a little bit, against Milan. Of course, they started a little bit, slow, and then they picked up the pace in the game, but Milan defended really well for the most part, despite the fact that Atalanta were dangerous at a certain point, particularly in the second half. But Milan defended really, really well, and they got away with 2 penalties to score them. Frank Kessié given a brace on penalties, of course, for AC Milan, winning them the game and winning them the 3 points that gets them into the Champions League positions on the table. They finished second behind Inter Milan on the table, which is a big achievement, I think, for them. Nobody thought they were going to be winning the title per se, but obviously, considering the achievements, pretty big, I would say, success for AC Milan over the course of the season, which has been riddled with injuries, COVID issues and all of that. And Zlatan Ibrahimovic being that talisman missing for this kind of game is pretty big, but they still managed to win, managed to get the 3 points, and again, they're back into the Champions League where they actually belong, I would say. As for Juventus, of course, who got in the top 4, they got that with the help of Napoli, who simply couldn't score against Hellas Verona. They only managed 1-1 draw, and they end up out of the top 4 position. I mean, it was pretty stupid the way they missed out on the Champions League. I mean, the game was in their hands, they dominated the game, but despite all of that domination, they only had 1 shot on target for the whole game, which was the goal that they actually scored. I mean, it is quite ridiculous, really, when you watch I watched the highlights of the game for the most part. I was zapping in between the games between Juve and Bologna, between Milan and Atalanta, and I was zapping, of course, between the games with Napoli as well. It was weird. It was really, really weird game, and definitely not the kind of game you would want to watch as a Napoli fan and expect your team not to score. The goal was scored by Amir Rahmani, a defender, which was, I think, a big evidence as well of how inefficient Napoli were in the game. Hellas Verona defended really well, and got themselves a good draw out of Napoli, considering the season that they've been having as well. It's a decent season for Hellas Verona as well. Elsewhere, Sassuolo defeated Lazio 2-0 with a 10-man Sassuolo, that is, having, of course, Giorgos Kyriakopoulos, who scored the opening goal for Sassuolo, being sent off in the 61st minute. Domenico Berardi made it 2-0 from the penalty spot inside 78 minutes, with Sassuolo almost guaranteeing a Europa Conference League spot, which if it was not for Roma getting back ahead against Spezia, of course, after going 2-0 down in the first half, they managed to make a comeback in the second half, scoring twice thanks to Stefan Sharawi and Henrik Mkhitaryan late on in the game. Of course, that draw meant that Roma are going to be playing in the new European competition next season, the UEFA Europa Conference League, while Sassuolo are going to be missing out on that competition. Lazio and Napoli are in the Europa League, and Torino managed to get a draw against Benevento, who were already relegated from last weekend, and of course Torino, who already survived just about, I would say, finishing at 17th on the table. Of course, the final table of the Serie A after the whole season: Inter Milan champions with, of course, 91 points, 79 for Milan, 78 for Atalanta, ahead of Juve on head-to-head competition, 77 for Napoli, 68 for Lazio, Roma 62, Sassuolo 62, Sampdoria 52, Verona 40 40, 5 Genoa with 42, Bologna 41, 40 for Fiorentina and Udinese, 39 for Spezia remaining in the Serie A, 37 for Cagliari remaining in the Serie A just about, 37 for Torino of course surviving just about as well, 33 for Benevento, 23 for Crotone, and Parma unfortunately been relegated as bottom of the table with 20 points. Obviously, congratulations go to Inter Milan winning the league, ending the Juventus domination. Congratulations go to Milan who finished second and got back to the Champions League where they belong. Congratulations go to Atalanta who become stalwarts of the Champions League once more, and going back to that competition for the third season in a row might not be the easiest of things, but definitely is the kind of achievement that makes Atalanta feel like a proper big team now in Italy as of late. Also, congratulations to Juve. As hard as it is for me to see a merit in Juventus being in the top 4 this season, I mean, over the course of the season, it's undisputedly undeserved, but over the course of the last game or so, like the cup game, the game against the game against Inter Milan and the game against Bologna here, I think it's at a bit deserved. They sneak into the top 4 just because of their name, really. They undeserving, again, underwhelming over the course of the season. Andrea Pirlo with his first managerial job almost being already on the line because of this top 4 situation, but he managed to sneak in. Obviously, there's going to be a wake-up call from the hardest kind, I would say, for Juventus, so they could work hard next season in the Champions League, and to get back to winning the Scudetto. Of course, with Inter Milan, I think will be adamant on winning a couple of more Scudettos in the next couple of years with Antonio Conte and with the squad that he has, the improvements that are going to be made for that squad. Obviously, there will be some dead wood maybe extracted, some old players leaving, some new players coming. Will be the talk of the summer, I think, in Italy, how Inter Milan are going to be improving their squad. I mean, there were talks about the new manager for Juve. Are these talks still going to be persistent when Juventus making the top 4? Is Juventus? I mean, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo probably be staying with Juventus, with the top 4 secured and locked. So we will wait and see which will be the saga, or which will be the biggest of sagas in of course the Italian football. That's it from me for this episode. This was the last of the leagues to cover. We'll still have episode over the course of the week talking about different topics, probably summing up the seasons across the board, talking about the Premier League, hopefully summing up the Premier League tomorrow, then summing up the La Liga on Wednesday. Obviously there'll be Europa League preview on Tuesday as well for the final. Then on Wednesday we're going to be talking about La Liga review, sort of a recap from some different levels. Then we have the Bundesliga recap. Then we're going to have a Serie A recap on of course hopefully on Thursday. We're going to have that as well. We're going to mix La Liga and Bundesliga recap maybe in one as well, or mix the Serie A and Bundesliga recap in one to give space for the Champions League final on Friday, which is going to take the biggest of spaces, I would say, over the weekend preview, the last of weekend previews before the Euros. If you like this episode, if you like what you heard, like, share, comment on the version of the YouTube version of the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, enable notifications always on to receive the updates from these episodes when they go live, and of course follow us on social media site PSP on Instagram, and of course join us always for more, help us on the way to our first K. We need to get there before the Euros, and until next time, goodbye.